My name is Laura Pierce, and this is the story of how I didn't destroy my ex-husband's life. I simply stopped protecting the lies that built it. But I need to start at the beginning, because you can't understand the ending without knowing what he took from me. 3 years ago, I was living what I thought was a life. I had a husband named Martin Halden, successful, charming, the kind of man who made other women look at me with envy. We had a beautiful daughter, Emma. She was 8 years old then, with her father's sharp eyes and my softer features. I remember thinking we were complete. I remember thinking we were safe. My mother died on a Tuesday. The grief hit like a wave that didn't recede. It just kept pulling me under. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. Martin found me one morning sitting on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m, and instead of holding me, he sighed. "We need to talk about finances," he said, placing papers in front of me while I was still in my pajamas, still smelling of the perfume she'd given me for Christmas. The documents were thick, full of legal language. He told me they were temporary arrangements, just to streamline things while the estate settled. I trusted him. I'd trusted him for 12 years. I signed. 2 months later, he left. He took the house, the savings, the joint accounts, everything we'd built together. He married Marissa within 4 months. She was 26. She used to babysit Emma when my daughter was younger. I found out about the affair when I saw them together at the grocery store, his hand on the small of her back, the same way he used to touch me. The custody battle was vicious. In court, he painted me as unstable. He said I was emotionally erratic, that I couldn't provide Emma with security. He brought Marissa, who looked at me with fake sympathy and spoke in that soft, concerned voice, the kind that makes cruelty sound like compassion. The judge gave him primary custody. I got Emma every other weekend. Every other weekend. That was the moment something in me shifted. Not anger exactly. I was too broken for anger. It was something colder. Something focused. I moved into a 2-room apartment above a laundromat and started working nights as a nurse. During the day, I did something I'd never done before. I paid attention. I kept detailed notes of everything Martin said to Emma during our visits. His subtle digs, his way of twisting words to make her feel like loving her mother was a betrayal of him. I watched how he'd smile at her, and then, when she wasn't looking directly at him, that smile would fade into something cold and calculating. I documented everything. Every text where he blamed me for ruining his life. Every voicemail where he'd say things like, "Emma prefers being with us now. Marissa's a better mother." Every lie about why child support couldn't be on time. I printed it all. I put it in a binder and kept it under my bed like scripture. But I didn't just keep records. I started learning things I'd never needed to know before. I studied Martin's business practices. I read about corporate fraud. I learned how to access public records, financial disclosures, property transfers. And 6 months into my vigilance, I found something that changed everything. It was buried in old tax files I'd kept from before the divorce. A bank statement addressed to both of us, dated 3 days before he left. A transfer of $50,000 to an account I'd never seen before. An account he'd told me was closed. That money was supposed to be Emma's college fund. He'd told me the market had crashed. He'd said the account was gone. He'd lied. I held that paper in my hands, and I didn't cry. I just felt it, the crystalline clarity of betrayal so absolute that became something else entirely. It became clarity. It became purpose. Marissa called me 3 weeks later. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken directly since the courthouse hallway where I'd watched her play the role of concerned stepmother. But something told me to pick up. "I need to see you," she said. Her voice was shaky, broken in a way I recognized. It was the voice of someone seeing clearly for the first time. We met at a coffee shop across town, somewhere neutral. She looked hollow, beautiful still, but like someone who'd been slowly disappearing. She ordered a black coffee and didn't touch it. "He's been draining my accounts," she said quietly. "Not just since we married, before. During the engagement. I found a bank statement he didn't know I had. Laura, there's money missing. Thousands. He said it was for investments, but I can't find any records. I listened and I understood. I told her about the $50,000. I showed her the statement I'd brought, the one I'd made a copy of years ago and kept hidden. Her face went white. It gets worse, I said carefully. There's more. Much more. Over the next 2 weeks, we met secretly. We compared documents. We timelined his lies. We found the pattern. Martin had done this before. He'd taken money from Marissa's family estate under the guise of business opportunities. He'd falsified documents. He'd created shell accounts. Marissa was angry, but I was something different. I was strategic. We can go to the authorities, I told her. But that takes time. Legal time. Years, maybe. And he's good at lying to legal people. She looked at me, waiting. Or, I said, slowly, we can give them the truth in a way they can't ignore. What I didn't tell Marissa was that I'd been working on my own investigation for months. You see, when you're the scorned ex-wife, people underestimate you. They assume you're emotional, irrational, operating from a place of bitterness. Martin certainly did. He never considered that I might be methodical, that I might be patient, that I might be dangerous. During one of his visits to pick up Emma, he carelessly left his laptop open on our kitchen table. Just for 3 minutes. That was all I needed. I had IT knowledge from my nursing job, background, understanding of hospital systems. Enough to know how to create a recovery key that would let me access his files remotely, using software that left no trace. For 2 months, I had a window into his empire. I found everything. The falsified safety reports on construction sites, things that could have hurt people, the bribes to city officials, the shell accounts, the tax evasion, the insurance fraud. I found emails between him and his business partner discussing how to hide assets during our divorce. I found photos of properties he'd claimed didn't exist. I photographed everything. I documented it. I made copies of copies of copies. And then I did something I'd been planning for weeks. I hired a journalist, not through official channels, but through a friend of a friend. A woman named Sarah Chin, who'd been writing about corporate corruption. I gave her everything anonymously, not to publish immediately, just to verify, just to help me understand the scope of what he'd done. When she confirmed it was real, I made my move. The first story broke on a Tuesday morning. Halden Construction, safety violations and falsified reports, read the headline. The article detailed how Martin's company had knowingly violated safety regulations on 6 different projects, covering it up with fraudulent documentation. Martin panicked. I watched it unfold from a distance, heard from Emma that he was angry, that he'd been shouting on the phone. The authorities opened an investigation. His board demanded explanations. He tried to reach me. We should talk, his text read. For Emma's sake. I agreed to dinner. The restaurant he chose was expensive, designed to intimidate. He arrived in his best suit. That old charm turned up to maximum. We sat across from each other with menus between us like a barrier. I know what you've been doing, he said quietly, once the waitress had left. You're trying to destroy me. No, I replied, meeting his eyes. I'm telling the truth. There's a difference. No one will believe you. I have lawyers. I have. You have nothing but lies, I interrupted softly. And I have documents. His face went pale. What documents? Everything, Martin. The accounts. The bribes. The money you took from Marissa. From me. From our daughter's future. All of it. It's all documented. And it's already with someone who can't be charmed or paid off. He leaned back, and I saw the moment he truly understood. His empire wasn't just threatened, it was already crumbling. That night, a second leak went public. Financial crimes, tax evasion, bribery. The articles named names, gave dates, provided evidence that was impossible to deny. Social media exploded. Investors pulled out. The board suspended him pending investigation. His law partners distanced themselves. Marissa filed for divorce, and she had evidence too. Within 72 hours, Martin Halden went from untouchable to infamous. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I watched from the gallery as they brought the evidence, the emails, the financial records, the testimony from his business partner, who decided to cooperate with prosecutors rather than face charges himself. I watched as Martin's lawyers tried to spin narratives that simply didn't hold, tried to suggest fabrication, conspiracy. And then I took the stand. I was calm. I was clear. I explained everything I'd found, everything I'd documented, everything I'd preserved. I didn't cry. I didn't let my voice shake. I simply stated facts, not as a wounded ex-wife, but as a woman who'd done her homework. Martin took the stand and did what he always did. He lied. He minimized. He blamed everyone but himself. He blamed me for being vindictive. He blamed Marissa for being ungrateful. He blamed the market, the economy, his business partner. He never once said, "I did this. I chose this. I am responsible." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Corporate fraud, financial misconduct, bribery, tax evasion. The sentencing came 2 weeks later, 15 years in federal prison. I didn't feel triumph when I heard the verdict. I felt something quieter, something like peace. 6 months after the sentencing, I was invited to speak at a women's leadership conference. I stood on that stage in a simple cream-colored dress, and I told my story. Not for revenge, that story was done, but for the women in that audience who were still doubting themselves, still wondering if they were too sensitive, too emotional, too much. I told them, your instincts are not flaws. Your anger is not weakness. Your need for truth is not vindictiveness. I told them about the moment I stopped trying to make peace with someone who preferred war, about the power of documentation, of patience, of refusing to be gaslit into silence. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. But the moment that mattered most came afterward when Emma, now 11, old enough to understand everything, found me backstage and wrapped her arms around me. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said. "I always was, but now everyone else knows why they should be too." I held my daughter, and I realized something that took me years to understand. Revenge wasn't what I'd needed. Justice was. Validation was. The simple, powerful act of being heard and believed, that was the revolution. A year later, I bought a house. A small cottage near the coast with blue shutters and a garden where Emma and I planted lavender and roses. I didn't become rich from Martin's fall. The settlements helped, yes. Enough to breathe again, to sleep without the weight of financial terror crushing my chest. But the real wealth was quieter. It was mornings where I woke without dread in my stomach. It was Emma asking me questions about life without fear in her eyes. It was the knowledge that I hadn't won through cruelty or hate, but through something far more powerful, the truth. Sometimes I think about Martin sitting in his cell, still blaming everyone but himself. I used to wonder if knowing about his suffering would bring me peace. It doesn't. It never does. What brings me peace is that his lies can't reach me anymore. His version of reality has no power over mine. I don't hate him. Hate is too active, too present. I've simply left him behind, the way you leave yesterday when you step into tomorrow. People ask me sometimes, do you regret it? Was it worth it? The answer is complicated. I regret that I had to become someone strategic and calculating to protect my daughter. I regret that I lived in fear for so long. I regret that the world required proof of his cruelty before it believed me. Women shouldn't have to become investigators to be heard. But do I regret telling the truth? Do I regret refusing to protect a liar? Never. What I did wasn't revenge. It was accountability. It was refusing to let silence be complicity. It was choosing to document, to persist, to believe in justice even when the system seemed designed to protect him. And most importantly, It was choosing my daughter's future over his comfort. So if you're listening to this story and you're wondering if it's worth the fight, if it's worth standing up, speaking out, demanding better, let me tell you something. It is. The only thing stronger than a lie is the truth. The only thing more powerful than charm is accountability. And the only thing more beautiful than revenge is watching someone's empire crumble under the weight of their own choices. I'm Laura Pierce. I survived Martin Halden. More than that, I thrived without him. And that, I believe, is the sweetest victory of all. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you do to someone else. It's becoming the best version of yourself and refusing to let them dim your light ever again. I learned something through all of this that I wish someone had told me years ago. Respect is non-negotiable. Your worth isn't defined by anyone else's seating chart, not by who gets the credit, not by who your family believes first. My story proves that silence can be a weapon and patience can be power. For years, I thought staying quiet made me strong. I was wrong. My documentation, my boundaries, my refusal to protect his lies, that was strength. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who's been gaslit into invisibility. Tell them, your silence doesn't make you weak. Your boundaries don't make you difficult. Your survival makes you extraordinary. Tell them they're not crazy for questioning what they were told to accept. Tell them their instincts matter. Because I'm living proof that when you stop protecting the people who hurt you, your life begins. The revolution happens when you decide to write your own ending. Subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories about setting boundaries, finding your worth, and turning humiliation into triumph. Your worth was never in question. It was only ever waiting to be remembered. Now go and remember it for yourself and for everyone watching who needed to hear this. You are not alone. You are not overreacting. You are extraordinary. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you do to someone else. It's becoming the best version of yourself and refusing to let them dim your light ever again.